And now I would like to very much invite Zlatuše Novotná from the Czech Republic, who will present us the combining funding for coordinated parallel elections that complement each other. Zlatuše represents a success story in widening, so we hope as well to listen to how the synergies in regard to create the impact on widening are really going on. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a pleasure to present to you the case study of my institution, which is Sejtek Masaryk University. And I titled the presentation like Strategy and Synergies in Research Funding. Because I believe that the strategy is something very, very important for creating synergies. I work as a head of grants office, so I'm in charge of all the grants and international relations. So this is the content of my presentation. I will introduce shortly the South Moravia and its regional innovation strategy, and I will come in detail to 3 phases of building the synergies within Sejtek, and I will conclude with some recommendations. So just to give you a geographical idea, South Moravia is bordering in the south with Austria and in the east with Slovakia. The capital of the region is Brno. Brno is the second largest city of course after Prague, and it's a self-governing region, however without explicit powers over research. I hope you see the basic numbers. Probably worth mentioning is that we have many students in some 8 universities located in the city. So I always say that Prague is full of tourists, but Brno is full of students, and it's really true. You can feel it during the semester in the streets. We also have a lot of researchers, and 3.4% of regional GDP is invested into R&D activities, 50% of them being private. So coming further, South Moravia was the first region in the Central and European geographical location implementing regional innovation strategy, and it started already in 2001. The main outcome of the first version of the strategy was creation of South Moravian Innovation Center, which is up to now a main driver for innovation and strategic approach for the regional government. Up to now, we have 3 versions of the regional innovation strategy, and you see that the focus changed from building infrastructure, incubation, startups, up to building capacities for R&D, especially in terms of human resources. And currently, the smart specialization strategy is being implemented. And you see that the region has a mission and a vision. Maybe I would point out that the indicators for the vision is percentage of GDP being generated by business R&D, the number of ERC grants, and percentage of international students. And you see the 5 pillars of the strategy. One of them is excellent science. And this is what leads me to my institution. You see that if we see the funding landscape of what an institution has to cope with, it's extremely complex, and one can get lost in many instruments and funding programs that are here in place and available for researchers and companies. Therefore, I believe that the strategy of the institution is something indispensable to create synergies out of this. The classical approach which does not lead to any synergies, is like reactive approach. That we have some call of proposals, then we have maybe some idea, we search for partners, and maybe we get a project or some outcome of the project. Whereas the good approach is like more proactive approach, having a vision. This means I know what I need, I know what I want, and what's also like in line with strategy of myself, of my research group, of my company, of my institution. Then I already have some pool of partners in place that I do not need to, in a lack of time, to communicate and get partners on board. And based on this, I'm able to create synergies because I can combine funding in a clever way. And I can create some portfolio of projects. And of course, it leads to synergies in research funding. For all this, of course, we need clever management, like strategy on board or in place. And based on my experience, we need also a perfect grant support. And now coming to the SATEC story very briefly, as I introduced already, it started during preparation of the research innovation regional innovation strategy, and the outcome of the second version was the regional consensus that 6 main partners joined forces and created this great project of SATEC. These partners are 4 universities and 2 institutes of Academy of Sciences located in Brno. And these partners used the operational program, this means ERDF fund, to build the new center. And you see the picture, how it looks like today. SATEC is a research center in the fields of life sciences, advanced materials and technologies. So this is itself very ambitious field, combining life sciences, material sciences, forcing doctors talking to engineers, you can imagine. And then we had a lot of money, 208 million euros, from which we built 10 core facilities, really a perfect up-to-date infrastructure which is open to all users, and we had open access projects, of course. Now, if the construction was finished, then we thought about building the capacity. This means the research capacity for the center. And this is, I regret that I do not have this PowerPoint presentation, but you can imagine that the first 2 blocks are operational programs. This means structural funds. And the third is a Horizon or 7th framework program, practically. So already starting from 2011 or even earlier, of course we didn't speak about any synergies, because at that time it was not a political topic at all. But we somehow, with our strategy, we knew that we have to combine both. And we knew that we have create some complementary approach. Example of this approach is the SATEC project and the Silica project. Silica was the RECPOT. And you see that the quite moderate investment or funding of already or almost 4 million euros combined with this huge amount of 200 million euros, you cannot compare the amount, but the impact of Silica on the capacity building of SATEC was very huge. And I will show you later on that we were able to attract a lot of talents, a lot of Czech people, Czech researchers coming from abroad back to SATEC. Another example would be research infrastructures. It was said a lot about research infrastructures already today. And we combine in the first phase the SATEC core facilities involvement in S3. This means from this we got no financial support. It's just about strategy, being member, being involved with the idea that in future we will get maybe some funding. And this was then developed also by Czech national authorities, because Czech Ministry of Education open call for update of Czech research infrastructure roadmap. And all this money, we applied for 5 projects, and all this money come from Czech state budget. And now we have a new period of programming from structural funds, so we applied also for some investment. So you see that already at the national level there is a synergy between Czech national budget, this means Czech research infrastructures roadmap, and the operational program. From one we can fund operation cost, and from the another the investment or reinvestment into the infra. And again we have the horizon, or before we had the FP7 infrastructures. So this is some long-term activity that our core facilities are involved and successful in horizon infrastructure calls also. Now we have examples about widening participation, spreading excellence projects. As I mentioned, first of all, we had the research potential silica, and now we have 3 twinning projects, which help us to finance brain gain and mobility. We have also the ERA-Chair project. Mary O'Connell will be in Brussels tomorrow in the other event and taking part in the round table. And these Horizon projects were are complemented with the ESI funds. It's from European Social Funds. And again, the synergy. Yeah? So from the Horizon 2020 projects, we can finance only mobility to certain partners which are form the consortia. But from the ESI funds, there was no limitation of mobility. So our researchers were allowed to travel to conferences all over the world, all to their partners all over the world. Out of all these capacity building projects, we had a great impact because we succeeded in the pillar 1 of Horizon 2020 Excellent Science pillar, and we got first two ERC grants in South Moravia. There are more currently, of course, but both researchers, Pavel Plevka and Richard Steffel, were researchers funded from one Silica and one the operational program. So they came back from the US and from Cambridge, and they submitted the ERC grant. We also succeeded with EMBO grants, installation grants, Marie Skłodowska-Curie grants, and this all is complemented with Pillar 2 consortium projects with application partners. Of course, I didn't mention that SATEC is positioned in the basic research area, so we put more focus on the basic research or excellent science research. What next for the next period? It's currently running the period of programming until 2020 or 2020. Again, we have the synergies of European funding and national funding, and it was mentioned, I think, 2 or 3 times today, that there is problem with funding the operation of infrastructure once it is built. So the synergy is that we ask for running cost from the National Sustainability Program. This is program provided by the Czech state, Czech government for research infrastructure. But the tricky thing is that the government gives us 1 Czech crown of money only if we complement 1.4 crowns from international funding, yeah, or from external funding. This means also for commercial income, yeah, and it's very, very hard for an institution like university or research institute in, let's say, Czech Republic to follow this rule. Yeah, therefore, we make a lot of effort to get Horizon grants. We are very active in the S3 project, and of course, there is the operational program for the new programming period here, and we try also to submit application to this. So the logic here is from the operational program OPVVV, there is funding for reinvestment into the infrastructure. It's no operational cost because the operational program is always about development something new or reinvest into something new. And the National Sustainability Program is really operation of the infrastructure. Yeah, so this is, I think, ideal case how it should look like if we speak about synergies. And not to forget, there are also synergies based on scientific career path. If you imagine the career path of a researcher starting from PhD students through the postdoc 1, postdoc 2, we have also junior group leader position and senior group leader. For each stage of career, there is some funding available, or let's say funding which is typical for this age of researchers, of stage of the career. And if we consult or if we mentor our researchers for what they should apply, we also try to consider this aspect. At the first stage of the career, more mobility, preventing inbreeding, which is really very typical for post-communist countries, that people are used to stay in their mother institution. They don't want to move around Europe. And then in the postdoc stage, we support like fluctuation. This means people coming, going, incoming, outgoing. We apply for Marie Skłodowska-Curie grants. And if the researcher is ambitious and excellent, then we prepare with them the ERC grants and other form of grants of national funding also. So to conclude, what I see as important for creating synergies is this regional basis. Yeah? This means a stable political commitment on environment, and I see it as a protected space. So irrespective of the elections, of who is sitting in the government, in the regional government, there is political commitment that South Moravia priority is excellent science. You saw the one of the pillar. Yeah. Then keeping strategic focus on project portfolio. This is connected with the reactive and proactive approach. Best people on board, of course, both on regional level, being in touch, communicate, network, and also at the institution itself, like provide a perfect support for grant writing, and of course try to create opportunities. And what I believe is that the grants are just an instrument, of course important, but good science is the goal. And innovation, of course. Thank you very much for your attention.